I want to start with a really big, broad question. As I said, this session is called the Entrepreneurial Spirit of Change. You are an entrepreneur with quite some big successes. What does this mean to you, entrepreneurial spirit of change?
Well, I think entrepreneurial and change are actually very linked. Because usually when you want to start something and you're an entrepreneur, you want to change something, you want to fight some sort of status quo. For this, usually you develop a vision and a mission which will actually drive your energy, your force into the project, the force to actually formulate the vision, the force to federate a team and to convince people to join you, because the most difficult thing when you start something and you have an idea of where you want to go is actually to make sure you don't go there alone, because you will never make it. So you have to make sure a lot of other people are convinced as well by what you're building. So you have to pitch, you have to formulate the vision so that it's rational enough and so that it doesn't just sound like a dream, which you cannot reach. Otherwise, you'll be doing it alone. So you need to link that dream to the reality and create the path and inspire people on the way. So for me, this is really the entrepreneurial spirit of change is really the willingness to change something, the ability to formulate a dream as some sort of a reality with a path to go there, and the ability to bring people together with you in your mission.
So I'm curious to hear a bit about how you think about that spirit of change in the work you've done, and maybe starting with BlaBlaCar.
Well, for BlaBlaCar, so today, so for those of you who are in France or in countries where BlaBlaCar is deployed, you know it's become something very usual and common. So it's 100 million people who are carpooling today. So what we do is carpooling. I precise because we are only in 22 countries, and sometimes people don't know us because we're not in their country. But what we do is carpooling, so we bring people together who share a ride. So drivers with empty seats will propose them to passengers going the same way who will be able to book a seat in their car. So we don't add up any car on the road, we just have empty cars and passengers who book available seats in cars. So with 100 million people on the platform and 20 million in France, so within France it's become very common, but at the very beginning, when I was starting, people would just think it was not possible to actually have people who would meet and drive together because they didn't know each other, or they would fear each other. So what we had to build was really a system of trust, so that you know with whom you will be ride-sharing, carpooling, and so you know beforehand the driver as a passenger, and the passenger knows the driver knows the passenger as well. And so you have a profile, and you have ratings, and you have all sorts of things we check. So we check the ID, we check the driver's license also, and so we have some sort of trust network that we've been able to build. So the change was really to make sure people would trust each other to run in cars, even though the rationale was that all the cars are empty. Most of them, and the occupation ratio per car is really, really low on most of the rides that we do, which is a nonsense then, because when you think about all the energy we waste by having all those empty cars on the roads, it's absolutely crazy. I don't know if you know this ratio, but 96% of the energy of a car which is running with only one driver on board is spent on just moving the car, not moving the person. Only 4% is spent on moving the person, and so this is what we actually fight by placing 2, 3, 4, 5 people per car. We divide the amount of energy and the amount of pollution generated per passenger, of course. So it's a very simple equation in many, many ways, because you have empty cars, so obviously there are available seats, and you also over-waste a lot of energy. So that's also why it got so developed, because you save, of course, not only energy, but you save money when you share the cost. So basically, drivers and passengers share the cost, but they share the energy, and they diminish the amount of pollution per person. So the logic of it made it so that the platform worked, but the change was actually to make sure people would trust each other to do that on long distances, which is the case today, and it's growing, of course, now in many countries, from India to Brazil and most of European countries.
Right. Well, many people here have probably used BlaBlaCar and at least are familiar with it, but now you're doing another enterprise, Captain Cause, which maybe is less familiar. It's less of something that you use in your daily life. Can you tell us a bit about Captain Cause? And again, what was the spirit of change that drove your decision to start this?
The underlying spirit of change behind it is that many people have a work life and have personal convictions, and sometimes they don't match. Actually, a lot of the time they don't match. And I don't think this is the best way to release the best energy in every one of us. And it also creates a discomfort, because you think you should be doing something and you're doing something else in your work life, and you spend all your day doing something when you think you should be doing something else, but you do it for just making a living. So the goal is to align personal and professional activities by creating a bridge between companies and impact projects. So what we do is we use the financial resource of companies to actually finance impact projects in the domain of environment, health, and social, so that actually the financial resource of the company can be used to solve some issues, some problems that we witness, that we see every day. Now, it's 93% of the population which is very, very worried about the coming years. 75% of the young generation is actually frightened by future. That's surveys which have been conducted recently. So it's a lot of people who develop some sort of anxiety for the future. And also the problem seems so big that we don't know how to solve it. So as an individual, you're like, okay, what can I do alone? So the big actors should act, and then the consequence is that 90% of the people think the big brand and the big companies should act on climate change, on the social consequences of it. By creating a bridge where companies can invest in associations, in NGOs, and in impact projects, we create a new way to actually solve this issue at scale. And the novelty we bring is that we allow companies to bring their stakeholders in the equation, because what they do is they say, okay, let's put 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, or €1 million that we will distribute to good projects as a company. But then what they do, and that's the innovation in what we bring, is that they will say their customers or their employees that they are responsible for spending that money well. And so they will offer the right to vote or to actually send the money to the project that each individual wants to see get financed. So you receive, let's say, €50, €100 from your company to send them to a project which you think is worth fighting for. And this changes the entire equation of donations, because for companies, it has an interest, of course, to bring the stakeholders who are clients or employees and bring them some purpose, a different purpose in being a friend with the brand. So this unlocks a lot of new funds from companies to impact projects by changing the donation from a scheme of two entities, so like someone who gives, someone who receives, to three actors, because you have someone who pays, someone who decides who get the money, so the customers or the employees, and then someone, of course, who gets the money to do the work on the ground.
I'm curious about, first, maybe you can just share how much you've done already, because it's impressive how much you've done already, but then also, this seems like there's got to be huge demand for this across the globe. How do you scale this up so that there can be opportunities to create these sorts of financial flows everywhere?
Well, first, we also have to make a change in spirit, because companies have to, I mean, they're slowly getting to that reality, but they have to realize that they need to contribute to the outside, to the world they're benefiting from. 1% for the planet, I don't know if you know this, this association created by Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia. Well, he says, actually, it should be normal that every company pays for the outside world that they are benefiting from. It's actually the cost of doing business. It's a rent that any company should pay to the planet for everything that it's able to produce. And so it's the same spirit that we are bringing with Captain Cause, because we think all companies should think that they have to return what they got from the planet to the planet and help it through the other impact projects. So that's the whole change we're bringing. And in terms of scale, so we are soon counting in millions that we've been able to send to impact projects. It's only the beginning. The official start was 6 months ago, so it's very, very young. However, we see that there is it's a position where technology can really bring something. The platform technology, we are a platform which has three faces. One face is the companies. One face is the stakeholders of the companies, so the employees and the individuals and the customers, so people like you and me. And then, of course, the impact projects, the NGOs, the associations in all the domains. So it's a platform which mixes all the energy from all what the actors have to bring. The associations, of course, bring the action. The companies bring the money, and the people bring the implication and the willingness to actually change the world.
And so this will be everywhere?
It can be everywhere, yeah. Well, it's the beginning. When I started BlaBlaCar, it was only in France, and then we expanded in many countries. So it's a platform which can scale in all countries, yes.
Right. One thing I think is so important for startups, for entrepreneurs, is ecosystems. And we're here in an ecosystem where people are meeting and making connections, and you're making connections with Captain Cause. But I'm curious just to get your sense of what more can be done to kind of create these ecosystems that we need to help entrepreneurs tap into some of the same spirit of change that we've been talking about.
Well, yeah, the more we discuss together and help each other, the more we will be able to build something different. So it's happening. If I look at an ecosystem I know, which is the French one, we have been able to count 1,000 companies in the impact, 1,000 new companies, startups, with the impact label, which means they bring a solution or an answer to one of the 17 goals of the United Nations. And so this is a good step, because it means the new generation of entrepreneurs tackle the big challenges that are ahead. I think all the generations of entrepreneurs have always been willing to change something, but now what we have to change becomes obvious. That's the difference. Right. Because we can't do anything else than just agree that there is an issue, and the status quo will not be the solution. Now, that's why the only way to go forward is to think differently, because I think by now we have proven that if we continue doing the same, so more of the same will bring us in the wall. So that's for sure. So we have to be very creative and think differently, and that's where the entrepreneurs bring something new, because actually it's their job to find new ways to do things differently, to change some methods.
Yes, very important, finding ways to think differently. I'm curious, okay, so there are entrepreneurs who are thinking differently, who are working with SDGs in mind. How do you change the mindset with the big corporates? And this is one of the things I find so compelling about Captain Cause, is you're linking these sort of entrepreneurs on the ground with the big companies. But how do you change the mindset across the board, so it's, expands beyond the ecosystem?
Well, it's actually a bottom-up approach because the mentality of individuals, so all the people, whether they are customers or employees, is already changing. And so since companies need customers, and they also need employees, and they need to be able to attract them and to recruit them, which is another issue right now when companies don't actually really comply with what we could think is a future which works for humanity, then they have a lot of difficulty in attracting talent. So companies need employees and they need customers. Customers and employees are changing their minds. Some of them are already totally switched, and a lot of them are actually switching very soon and right now. And so since companies need them, they will need to evolve with them. So the approach of a Captain Cause is to bring the causes into the discussion from the bottom being us as individuals, to actually help companies make this transition and tell them, if you go in that direction, it will be good for you as well and for us. Otherwise, we may just walk away and not buy your products, not work for you.
Right. Well, okay, final question. There could be someone sitting in the audience, maybe not here, but maybe watching, saying, okay, that all sounds nice, but it could all just be a bunch of greenwashing, I mean, the companies can start using Captain Cause, or, these startups, they might, they're not actually doing anything, it's just a way to make money. How do startups avoid greenwashing? How do you answer the concern of some people who are concerned that a lot of this might be blah, 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 if you will?
Well, the thing is, we're talking about money that goes into action through NGOs and external groups of people who are acting on the ground. So we're not talking about communication. So the money doesn't go into communication projects, it goes into action projects. So that makes a lot of difference, because the usage of the money is not to make a good image, it's to actually create and build new projects which are solutions to all the problems we see every day. The other thing is that the companies and the projects themselves actually display what they do. They send a follow-up to the entire company saying, okay, we got this amount of money and this is what we've done in 3, 6, 12 months. So they give a report of what they've been doing. And also, would be a very bad idea for a company to just hope that you come at Captain Cause and you give money, and you open a new channel of discussion with people who are very convinced and who want to really change things and help projects which need money, to not see that it's a two-way communication. So at a brand, if you come and you're doing greenwashing, it will be very, very tough for you to handle it, because it will backfire immediately.
Right.
Otherwise, when companies want to do greenwashing, what they do is they use a one-way communication channel. And so they hope that people will not be able to respond. But with a community like we're creating on Captain Cause, it's a two-way communication channel. So you can't just come, try to do some greenwashing and hope it will not backfire. It will immediately. So that's why so far we've had 120 companies who followed us so far to create operations. We haven't had any case of any, not even a greenwashing or any suspicion of greenwashing, or not a reaction from the community which would say, oh, this is not fair, because this is not appropriate because this brand or this company doesn't do what they say they do. Or so we haven't had that, and I think the brands who think about greenwashing will think about something else than Captain Cause, because it would be a bad idea to come on Captain Cause to greenwash.
I love that point about the two-way communications. That's very, very apt. Thank you so much, Frédéric Mazzella. But great conversation. Thank you.